So good morning to all of you. In previous session, we have seen introduction to digital signal processing. Okay, how analog signal and digital signal differs from each other. How again these signals can be categorized. Right? That is broad categorization as continuous value, continuous time signal, continuous value, discrete time signal, discrete value, discrete time signal, as well as digital signal, as well as we have seen definition of signal, which can be defined as a physical quantity which varies with time, space, or the independent variable or variables. Right? We have seen some of the examples of those signals, as well as we have seen the further categorization of signals into deterministic, non-random, right? Continuous, discrete time, energy, power signal, okay, even odd signals. So today we'll be discussing about basic elements of digital processing system. Okay. So in this session, we'll be looking at what are the different elements which are present in the digital signal processing system, how analog signal processing system differs from the digital signal processing system, as well as we'll be looking at the advantages of digital signal processing over analog signal processing, as well as certain drawbacks involved in the digital signal processing of an signal, okay, of an analog signal. So if I'm considering signal processing systems, okay, so this can be broadly categorized as analog signal processing system and second one is digital signal processing system. Okay. So the signal processing system can be broadly categorized as analog signal processing system and digital signal processing system. So as we have seen in previous lectures, most of the signals are analog in nature. So in case of analog signal processing system, there may be your analog signal processor, to which an analog signal is given as an input and it produces an analog signal as an output. Okay. So this is simple representation of what analog signal processing system. So this first figure indicates what analog signal processing system. Okay. So in analog signal processing system, the original analog signal will be given as an input. Your analog signal processor will perform certain operation on the given analog signal and it will produce the output in analog form, right? So this analog signal processor is nothing but the analog hardware, right, which will be performing certain operations on the given input analog signal. But if I want to process the analog signal, because most of the signal in nature are analog, right? So all natural signals are analog in nature. So to process those signals by using digital signal processing system, we need some additional operations as well as additional blocks in that digital signal processing system, right? So what are those blocks basically? So initially your analog signal should be converted into digital form to process it digitally, right? So there will be analog input signal which will be given to the what you can say that analog to digital converter. So this A to D converter will convert the given analog signal into digital signal, right? So this erase this thing. Okay, so I will take a new slide here. Let it be. So in case of your, I need to select pen. Okay, so a blank screen here. So in case of your digital signal processing system, if I want to process an analog signal using digital signal processing system, so I will take analog signal as an input where it will be converted into digital form by using analog to digital converter. So it will produce digital signal as its output, right, which will be given as input to the digital signal processor, right? Just like in case of your analog signal processing system, there was analog signal processor, here it is digital signal processor. Okay, so this digital signal processor will produce what? Digital signal as an output, which will be further can be given back to the, what you can say that, digital to analog converter, which converts the given digital signal back to analog form. So this will be the analog signal output. So this figure can be considered as what? Your digital signal processing system. So digital signal processing system comprises what? Analog to digital converter, the digital signal processor. This digital signal processor can be your digital hardware or the software which is performing certain operation on the digital signals, or it is the combination of digital hardware and software, right? So it will produce certain digital output which can be fed back to the digital to analog converter. Not fed back, it will be given as an input to the digital to analog converter, which then converted back to the analog signal, right? So certain application required all these three blocks in digital signal processing system, but in some of the cases this last block may not be required, right? So just for example, if I am taking example of speech signal, okay, so if just for example I am considering it as in case of mobile communication, okay, or maybe simply in video conferencing, right? Your audio signal is initially analog in nature, right, which will be converted into digital form so that audio should be properly processed and properly transmitted. Okay, so that means that audio signal will be digitally processed. Okay, so we need initially that audio signal is analog in nature, so it should be converted into digital form by using analog to digital converter. Then it can be processed digitally by using this digital signal processor, or some maybe audio quality improvement algorithm you will be using there. Okay, so it will be digitally processed, then it will be producing digital signal as an output, but at the receiver end it requires in the analog form. So that means that audio signal which is in digital form should get converted into an analog form. So this application required your digital signal should be get converted into its original form, that is nothing but in analog form. Okay, so you can consider speech processing as well as mobile communication as an example in which all these three blocks required in digital signal processing system. But in some applications, such as you can take example of radar, okay, where this last block is not required. Okay, how this radar system works? So one signal will get transmitted from the radar position so that it will get strike to the object in its periphery. So when that signal strike to that object, it will get reflected back to the radar itself, and radar will indicate the actual position of that object. So actual position means the xy coordinates of that object, or maybe the coordinates of the object. So that data will be represented in digital form on the screen itself. So this last block will not be required in this radar application. Okay, that is digital to analog converter. So these are the some basic elements of digital signal processing system. So what are those basic elements? That is nothing but analog to digital converter, which converts analog signal into digital form. Yeah, in subsequent lectures we will be uh, going into the details of this analog to digital conversion process. But for now, this analog to digital converter will be converting analog signal into digital form. Then the digital signal will be given as an input to the digital signal processor, which will be processing that signal and producing output in digital form. In some application, this digital output will be given to the digital to analog converter, because such application will require the output in the analog form. So we have some the examples of it, right? So next we will be looking at the advantages and disadvantages of digital signal processing over analog signal processing. Right? So what are the advantages? So basically the finite difference methods, numerical integration methods, numerical interpolation. These methods are developed to solve problems involving continuous variables and functions. So basically these methods are the origin for digital signal processing techniques. So with the availability of large digital computers, this interest of people increased in the digital signal processing domain. So a digital programmable system allows flexibility in reconfiguring the DSP operation, that is digital signal processing operation, simply by changing the program. Right? Realized digital signal processing system provides more accurate tolerance. In analog circuitry, these hardware components make it extremely difficult for the system designer to control the accuracy of an analog system. So there will be more accuracy in case of digital signal processing system. Right? So digital signals are easily stored on magnetic or other storage media. Maybe you can store it on your pen drive, DVDs, or any other drive storage medium. Right? So because of that, this signal becomes transportable and can be processed offline in any remote library. Those can be carried from one lab to another lab for processing purpose. It allows implementation of single signal processing algorithms. So those algorithms can be implemented in various platforms such as MATLAB, Scilab, maybe your Python programming language, PHP, right? So all these programming, even you can use C, C++, Java, okay, for the implementation of these signal processing algorithms. Okay. So mathematical operation can be performed easily on these digital signals, right? So digital implementation is cheaper due to various advancements that was in the first session, right? There are various advancements in the circuitry, integrated circuitry. Right? So because of that, digital implementation is cheaper. If I want to modify the operation in case of digital signal processing, so simply I need to modify the software program or the algorithm that I am using. And there is no need to modify the hardware. But there is only one drawback which is associated with the digital signal processing operation. As we have seen in the previous slide, in analog signal processing, directly analog signal is applied to the analog signal processing hardware, and it will produce analog signal as an output. But in case of digital signal processing, initially that analog signal need to be converted into digital form. Digital signal will be processed by using digital hardware or software. Then it will produce digital signal, and then digital signal will get converted back to the analog form. So that means analog signal processing is faster as compared to the digital signal processing. Okay? Because it will be the analog signals will be directly applied to the analog hardware. But in case of digital signal processing of the analog signal, this analog signal should be converted into the digital form, right? So this digital signal processing has various applications in speech processing, signal transmission on telephone lines, image processing, seismology, geophysics, oil exploration, detection of nuclear explosion, etc. Okay, so applications basically are in every domain, okay, each and every domain, right? So the operation of digital circuit does not depend on the precise value of the digital signal, okay? So therefore digital circuit is less sensitive to the tolerance of the component value compared to the analog circuit, okay? So therefore the digital hardware or digital signal processing system has more accuracy as compared to analog signal processing system. So the digital circuit operation is independent of temperature, aging, and most of the other external parameters. But in case of analog signal processing system, these external parameters plays important role, and it affects the overall output of the analog system. So as well as there are some more advantages, such as the digital circuit can be produced in large quantities. It is amenable to full integration, and with the advances in the VLSI circuit, it is possible to integrate complex and sophisticated digital signal processing system on a single chip. That we have seen in the first session, that is SoC6 system on chip. Right? So a digital processing, floating point arithmetic, or binary words with increased word length can be used to achieve the desirable accuracy in signal operations. Single digital signal processor can be utilized for processing number of signals due to time sharing capabilities, resulting in the reduction of the cost. its simple example is that as we are using personal computers or laptops, it consists of same hardware. That is, one processor may be there, that is i3, i4, i7, or any other processor is there in the laptop. It is general processing unit, that is GPU, right? As well as some other hardware is present there, but that same hardware you are utilizing for performing various operations. Okay, you can use the same hardware for image processing, weather forecasting. You need to simply write down the algorithms, and you have to implement those algorithms in different programming platforms such as Python, maybe Scilab, maybe MATLAB, PHP. Okay, Julia you can use. Okay, so all these platforms you can use. Only you need to change the software program to perform the different operations using the same hardware. Okay. But as I already stated that there are certain drawbacks of digital signal processing of analog signals. So digital signal processing system has many advantages and wide range of applications in various domains, but it also has some drawbacks. So one of the drawback is speed of operation of analog to digital converter and digital processor that I already stated. Okay. So wide bandwidth requires fast sampling. That is the second drawback. That is wide bandwidth requires fast sampling rate, analog to digital converter, and fast digital signal processor. So there are some analog signals with large bandwidth for which digital processing approach is beyond the state of art of digital hardware. That means there are certain analog signal for which digital signal processing approach cannot be implemented. Okay, so these are some of the drawbacks of digital signal processing. So in next session we will be looking at the analog to digital conversion process. Okay, so thank you for joining this session.